Can you build a computer by yourself for half the price? Let's check it out. A universal recipe valid today and in 10 years. Hi, nice to see you on this channel. The matter is serious. I decided to look through my diamond collection, sell a few pieces and buy a new computer. Let's see what came out of it. For making this video, computer hardware manufacturers issued an arrest warrant for me, and they put a high price on my head. No kidding. Alright, a little more serious. I have been interested in IT for over 40 years, and although companies and technologies change, some principles remain universal, and today as in the past, marketing specialists try to get money from customers. As much money as possible, and that will probably never change. What can be done to lower the price, and to significantly lower it, up to 50% and more? Buying a new computer is always a big expense, although not as significant as in the 70s or 80s. Back then a home computer used to cost several years' salary. Today it is usually within 1 month's salary. Simply progress. Progress with a capital P. I will share with you some ideas on how to lower the price. Some may be obvious, others debatable, and some even surprising. Most of them apply to desktop computers, although some will also work for laptops. What ideas do you have for a cheaper buy? Let me add that in the video you can see the assembly of the computer I recently built. However, it is only an illustration, and a similar way of thinking can be applied in a few years. Thus, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the technologies used here, but maybe someone will be interested in this configuration. The first idea: applications, priorities, assumptions. What will the computer be used for? Is it supposed to be the most powerful configuration, or maybe just a budget-friendly option? Or someone cares about a certain less typical feature and wants, for example, a super quiet device? In what configuration the most commonly used software do work in the most efficient way? Not always a given software is capable to fully use, for example, the latest processor or dedicated graphics card model possibilities. Such information is easy to find on the internet, although it takes some time. Following what is in the vogue is the worst advisor. With such rapid technological progress, buying hardware with power in reserve is a poor idea. However, there are exceptions, such as buying a better housing or a more powerful power supply. Finally, why a dedicated graphics card for occasional gaming? If the one integrated with the processor can often handle many titles quite well, although with worse graphics generation settings. Also, cloud gaming might be a good option in such a case. The second idea: one generation back. A year or two ago, manufacturers praised the latest processors, motherboards or memory models. They are wonderful, amazing, unique, incredible, brilliant, super intelligent, the latest tech. They can dance, sing and pour orange juice into a cup. And after a dozen or so months, the previous generation of hardware suddenly becomes useless. Throw out this crap and buy new models. Is it really like this? The difference in performance usually does not exceed a few, sometimes a dozen or so %, and the difference in price sometimes exceeds twice. A small positive side effect is also the fact that drivers or other software for the previous generation of hardware are much more refined, so you can save a lot of time when everything just works after installation, zero problems. The third idea: free software. Instead of Windows, Linux. Yes, Linux can be liked, and in the recent years it has become more and more user-friendly, hence it is easier to switch. Is it time to change? Additionally, we have plenty of free software available for Linux. Word processors, spreadsheets, databases, programs for graphic or music creation, and for video editing, and many more. All this for 0 gold ducats. It is easy to quickly calculate what a huge difference it makes. Although it should be mentioned that some of this free software is also available for Linux, but it usually causes more problems or works less efficiently. The fourth idea: special offers, special offers, special offers. This point needs no explanation, although it is quite often the case that discounts are deceptive. Thus, it is worth using websites that track price changes over time, or those where users add and comment on various offers. It is easy then to avoid potential pitfalls. Surprisingly, sometimes it is more profitable to buy within special offers in another country, even a distant one, and cover the shipping costs. Although in this case it is better to buy components for which the risk of failure is low. The fifth idea, month of the year. Without keeping track of price changes on an ongoing basis, you might be surprised that prices often strongly depend on month of the year. This is partly due to the technological calendar of many companies that release new device models at the end of the year. Partially, it may depend on the specific country and local holidays or gift buying customs during certain periods. According to my observations, the best deals are usually in February and March, then in July, and then in late October and early November. However, this is not a rule that always works perfectly. The sixth idea, laptop or desktop. Self-assembled desktop. The latter often allows you to get much more for a much lower price and additionally provides more extension possibilities, which means that in a few years you can still upgrade the hardware and significantly extend its lifespan. In addition, a self-assembled computer is not only great satisfaction, but also it means great savings. And that's double, you do not pay for the assembly itself and you can buy components in several different stores at the best prices. The seventh idea, plan now how to upgrade your computer in a few years. It doesn't have to be an exact plan, but at least an initial target configuration. It is true that such an expansion may require the use of second-hand parts instead of new ones, because the former will no longer be available for a given platform, but often it will speed up the computer for a really ridiculous sum. You can replace the processor, replace or add memory, replace the graphics card, or install a dedicated graphics card at all if the first configuration has only integrated graphics, or add a new much faster hard drive, or keep the old one for storing less frequently used data. Having a certain vision of future expansion, paying a little more today, for example for a more powerful power supply or more efficient processor cooling, you might save a lot in 2, 3 or 4 years. Of course, in case of laptops, it is only possible to replace the memory or replace or add a drive, and this is increasingly not provided by manufacturers. It is horrible. It is also worth remembering that you can connect to a desktop computer remotely and work on it, for example from a tablet or a less powerful older laptop. Then the laptop plays the role of a terminal and in fact you work on a desktop computer. This usually only functions well on a really fast network though. The eighth idea, less known but still reputable manufacturers. It has been known for a long time that in the IT world, and not only, you pay a lot for the brand. However, by browsing specialized websites or internet forums, it is easy to find information about really good equipment for much less money. The more so that even the great ones have mishaps, sometimes serious ones. Hence, it is better to review the test results than to make a choice based only on trust in the manufacturer. When buying equipment one generation back, you can count on many valuable reviews, so you don't buy blindly. The ninth idea, using some components from your older computer. It applies in practice only to desktops. Often you can without problems reuse the case, power supply if it is powerful enough, hard drives or CPU cooler or case fans. The more so that, for example, in a large desktop computer case you can usually mount several drives without problems. The slower ones might be used to store, for example, old photos. The 10th idea, second-hand components. This is also some idea, but you need to be very careful here. The condition of the desktop computer case is easy to check. It is also easy to verify the second-hand memory functioning, and if there are no errors, after several hours of testing, you can assume that the memory is fully operational. Usually, for my computers, whether desktops or laptops, I bought used memory. However, I would never buy a second-hand power supply, for example. It is not known whether, for example, it has not been repaired in makeshift way or whether it has not been operated at the limit of its capabilities for years, which reduces obviously its durability. Such a power supply is likely to fail under heavy load. Failure in the most pessimistic scenario will result in big problems, like destruction of most computer components or even a fire! Not everyone is a firefighter and has a fire extinguisher under his desk. What do you think about these ideas? Are they worth something, or would you not pay a single gold ducat for them? Too obvious or helpful? A few words about the computer I built. Small housing. I like them, although they make it very difficult to install the components. You have to think carefully about the order of your actions. Plus a micro ATX board. Why not mini ITX? Because the latter are much more expensive, and additionally they usually have only 2 memory slots and only one NVMe drive socket. A processor with integrated graphics does budget version, but for my applications it is enough. In addition, a semi-passive power supply with a high power of 750 watts. Why like this? This model works fully in passive mode up to about 200 watts, which means that it's 100% silent. In addition, it gives some margin for expansion in the future. Finally, a huge heatsink, much larger for the needs of the chosen microprocessor. As a result, for typical office use, the computer is completely silent most of the time. Neither the CPU fan nor the case fans are working. There are as many as 3 of the latter to cool the whole thing down quickly if necessary. Finally, such a large heatsink should cope with another more powerful processor from the same family. Madness or not? At the end, as usually, a curiosity for real tough guys. Did you know that the commonly used today ATX standard for motherboards, cases and power supplies come from 1995? And no successor has even appeared ready to replace this old man. Even the famous BTX standard existed only for a moment and was quickly forgotten. Stay healthy.